Welcome to the Principal Podcast, where we talk about how the best professional services firms grow. Whether you're looking to scale your firm or learn from the stories of founders and leaders who've done it, you're in the right place. Join us as we interview the best leaders in professional services. Let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Principal Podcast, a place where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your own practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, John Degnan. Join me as we talk with the best consultants in their niche. Today we have one of them for sure, Pam Boney, the Principal Podcast guest, founder and CEO of Tilt365. She shares how professional service firms can build stronger teams, improve leadership, effectiveness, and create cultures that actually scale. Drawing from decades of experience in executive coaching, organizational psychology, and assessment design, Pam explains why traditional personality frameworks often fall short and how leadership agility and character science are helping firms improve collaboration, retention, and long-term performance. Pam, welcome.
Thank you, John.
It's great to have you here. Can you tell us about yourself?
Well, sure. I'm kind of a geek, I guess you would say, behind the scenes, interested in technology and how we can use technology to grow like self-knowledge and self-understanding and self-awareness so that our lives get better, actually. So I'm somebody who loves every assessment you can get your hand on, that helps you to kind of understand one different thing about yourself. And I'm one of those founders myself. I've been studying personality as it relates to character strengths for, I guess, about 3 decades now. And I'm an executive coach, but previously I came from senior leadership at Hilton. So I had a large portion of the United States as a leader in the hospitality industry in my first career. And I saw a lot of dynamics happening with big personalities and how they get along with one another and how that can actually create drama and prevent people from moving forward when they kind of go into their corner, their favorite pattern, and dig in their heels and not move forward. So I was just curious about that, wanted to develop high-performing teams when I was a leader, and I realized that personality was a big part of that, and that if we didn't address what was really going on in those team dynamics, that we might really miss something. So that's what I have studied and researched over the last 3 decades.
I read that you in your early 20s and you were a top salesperson, eager for a promotion, but it wasn't transpiring, and that kind of leaped you into your curiosity.
Yeah, I was doing really well in sales, and I kept having a couple of times when I didn't get the leadership position. They cited the Myers-Briggs assessment as the reason, and said, no, you need to stay in sales. You need to stay in your lane. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. If I want to be a leader, I should be able to be a leader. So they said, well, I said, what kind of assessment told you that I shouldn't be? And they told me the MBTI, which they had given me, I guess, when they hired me. And so I asked about it, and I got curious about it, and I started studying it. So I studied all 16 types. And as I was studying it, I thought, I think I can do all of these 16 things. And so I kind of became a rebellious fighter against that idea of typing, and that's what my research is about, that we shouldn't limit ourselves by typing either ourselves or other people, and that we really smart people, once they understand why the underpinnings of their unconscious needs exist, that they can choose to be different, choose to be intentionally in certain patterns that create certain outcomes. So we're not defined by or limited by our preference.
Does everybody have a capacity to be a leader?
Everybody has the opportunity to be a leader. I wouldn't say everybody has the capacity to be a leader if they don't choose it. So that has a lot to do with your will and your interests, and it does have something to do with your strengths too, but more importantly, it's about your passions and your interests and your drive.
You start with your personality, but it's your character that defines success. That's a great quote.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so personality is just your preference. And so we all show up at work and have a preference of how we like to work and the strengths that we like and the things that we like to do every day. We sort of shape the role that we do around those favorite interests and passions and so forth. But if we want to become something and we have a strong desire for it, we absolutely have the capacity for it. So if we do intentional development and learn how to put certain traits forward, certain strengths forward in certain circumstances, and pull them back in other circumstances, then we have what I would call intentional behavior, as opposed to just showing up as your preference every day.
You were in the corporate world in Hilton. What made you the leap to consulting?
Well, I was spending a lot of time observing human dynamics and how it affects performance and how it impacts what people do every day when they show up to work. So I've around age, I don't know, my late 30s, I started thinking, well, I think I'm more interested in developing and growing people than I am in the, all the task heavy part of running hotels. And that was fun while I was young, and I did enjoy every minute of managing hotels and leading people. But I think in the second half of my career, I decided I wanted to focus 100% of my attention and effort on, coaching people and figuring out if I could transfer these insights that I had found. Can I transfer them to other people? Can it be, if it's not transferable, then it doesn't represent an opportunity for a business.
What specific problem are you helping clients solve through Tilt365, and why does solving that problem matter so much to you personally?
Yeah, so interestingly, the thing that I landed on 30 years ago that got me so interested is Aristotle's golden mean. And that's basically the idea that the traits of being human, our personality traits, when we overextend them, become extremes. And those extremes actually are an indicator that we're beginning to operate from some hidden fear. And it's what I learned is that it's ego fears that happen. And when we become extreme, then we end up having conflict with other people and thinking, I'm right, they're wrong, and they're not necessarily wrong. All of our traits are useful in the right situation. So, for example, in one situation, it might be most important to lean into empathy and compassion. Another situation, it might be more important to lean into boldness and risk-taking, or creativity instead of being patient and waiting and doing research. So these polarities are the things that we are always considering when we decide what behaviors we want to do. And so the idea of Aristotle's golden mean is that the most mature and evolved or enlightened person or leader is actually in command of how they show up and not just doing that same thing to an extreme. And the more we reinforce our preferences, the more we might have a tendency to go too far with our extremes. And so that idea is what got me interested in doing the research that I've done. So what is the problem that we solve? The problem we solve is divisiveness and extreme polarities that occur in team dynamics when people become fearful. And those fears are not legitimate fears. These are fears about loss of power, loss of approval, loss of acceptance, loss of status, loss of attention and recognition. And these are not your life's not in danger. So they're not true fear, and they're not serving you in the way that true fear does, if you encounter a bear. So these fears, once we become aware of them, help us become clear that, I'm operating in some kind of ego fear. Maybe I shouldn't act on that. And so the problem has gotten worse over the last 30 years, actually. As I'm saying that, you probably can sense what I'm talking about, that divisiveness and extreme polarity has gotten worse rather than better. I think a lot of that is because of technology and because of the algorithms that are reinforcing that fear is the most interesting thing, and and our brain has that negativity bias, so we are the most interested in what can put me in danger. And this is a survival mechanism that is good if it's used consciously, but it's not a good idea to be operating on fears that you're not aware of why you're doing them.
Interesting. Self-awareness of your fears. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ego fears versus real fears.
Okay. Who are your ideal clients today?
So our ideal clients are functional leaders that want to develop performance in their teams. AI is a big part of what we're interested in, and what we're doing is helping teams that have to be more efficient and more speedy to manage the human side of that. Like, how do you grow leaders in a way where they operate more from strength and less from fear, so that they're not dividing on the team and instead can very quickly align, or they can have some kind of quick recovery that we teach them to go, I noticed that you're in fear about that, so tell me what it is that I'm not seeing. Because we all have different fears that come up in situations of business, and so it's helpful for us to actually express those. So we also kind of think that feedback that we get from one another should be delivered very directly to one another in a way that is not triggering. So those are the things that we teach, basically. And the assessments help you to understand those unconscious needs that you're not aware of what's driving the fear.
You've built a very distinct point of view around leadership agility and character science. What's worked best for growing your audience and attracting the right clients over the years?
Well, I would say what's worked best is when people encounter our assessments, they see them as really profound, and kind of go, whoa, how did you know that about me? How did you know that was there? So that face recognition of, yes, that is what scares me. So when they take the assessment, that profound experience of, yes, this is right, this feels right, then it turns into referrals. And so having people experience it has been number one, because once they do, they tell other people about it. That's how it has spread. Our referrals have been the majority of our business. Yes, of course, we've got other mechanisms in place, and websites and marketing and all kinds of things, but that's number one, is the experience of being a great product that truly helps people and is sticky, because the way that we implement it helps teams to really have a common language where they can talk about these things without dividing and going into their corners.
What role do you think podcasting can play for consultants, coaches, and professional service firms looking to build trust and authority?
Well, I think interviewing experts is important today. AI is only as good as the experts that pair with it. And so, podcasting paired with, what we're all learning from interacting with AI, I think podcasting can really be helpful.
Okay. I read that you worked with Facebook.
We have worked with Facebook many years ago. We don't work with them as much now. It's mostly individuals that we work with there. But yeah, so We've shifted our focus to smaller companies, and we worked with them in the early days when they were under 5,000 employees.
When firms are considering leadership transformation or culture work, how do you typically guide the sales process from initial conversions to long-term engagements?
Well, we like to first interact with them personally, so we like that human element. The first step is interacting, explaining it, giving a demo, showing them the science behind the system, and then giving them the implementation plans for how they can enable themselves internally. But it usually does start with an expert, but it almost always continues to be a personal relationship over the course of time. We start by influencing a functional leader. That leader shapes a culture in the team that we call generative, because it's able to move really fast and produce and be innovative and faster than their competition. Then that spreads to other leaders within the company. And once that happens, then eventually the greater culture begins to evolve and become a lot more agile and a lot more generative.
And once the client starts working with you, how do you retain them? How do you make sure they continue to come back, give you value, and stay engaged long term?
So we almost always pair the leader of culture change, might be the CHRO, could be the chief people officer, might be a functional leader that really cares about evolving the culture of their team and performing at high performing levels. And we almost always pair them with a coach that knows the Tilt system really well and can kind of help keep guardrails on and also keep them going fast in terms of the momentum. Well, I would say probably yes. The incoming emails are ridiculous these days. So to me, I think very quickly getting through that and managing your systems, and there are ways that we've attempted to try to help our teams to not get bogged down in all the input of information that keeps coming in. So I would say many companies are utilizing bots too much. They're utilizing AI quite a lot to reach out. That's only okay if it's paired with an expert and you get into a relationship pretty early on, is my opinion.
I looked on your website and saw your manifesto, be kind, wise, bold, unique, and real. Can you tell us about that?
That fits with the Tilt framework. Being kind is about being humans, interacting with other humans. Being wise is smarter than being intelligent because it includes really good judgment. Being bold is important because if you're not bold, you're not going to get anyone's attention, and life is an adventure when you're being bold. If you don't commit, you're not going to bring the things that need to happen into your world. Being unique is about having a unique voice in the world, and a lot of our assessments are about that. Like, what is it that makes you unique, and can you articulate what makes you unique? And then being real is about being authentic. So it's all four of those things together. Authentic voice comes across from people who are strong internally. When you're trying to perform a role, you come across as not for real, not authentic, and in a role that's kind of superficial.
Can you give us a case study, maybe just a brief case study of one of your clients' experiences?
We actually intentionally tilt to 4 specific patterns in context. So for example, when someone starts a new job, if their preference is to be somebody who's really bold and strategic and likes to be, have their voice in the room, you don't want to come into a new role in a new culture or new company or new team and go in guns loaded that way. You actually want to change your behaviors and tune in, listen, build relationships, slow down, take in information and build find out who the people are and what they're up to and what their values are. And that requires a whole different set of patterns than your typical preference.
Sure.
And so that when we call it situational agility, you want to first, if you're intelligent about it, look at the situation and then decide, how do I want to show up, and have the ability to do that in a way that's very genuine and authentic.
Looking ahead, where do you see the biggest opportunity for leadership agility and character-based development over the next few years?
Probably in government. I think there's a big opportunity there. We're more divided there than we are anywhere. And so in public service, we do quite a lot of work with local government and people who are managing communities, and it has spread very widely that way in local government and state government. So our view is that probably the biggest opportunity is if the general population would begin to understand that dividing against one another is bad. I think leadership in a political arena, for example, any leader who's dividing us is not good. And therefore, we need to begin to cultivate a situation where we have leaders who are serving everyone. And that, to me, is probably the most important arena, that if we can help people see that in that arena, then we will have accomplished something really big. Right now, we work mostly in companies and communities. So, that hasn't happened, but we do see that as the biggest opportunity.
Pam, if people want to find out more about you and see what you do, where should they go?
They should go to Tilt365.com, TILT365.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay, we'll put all the links in the description. Thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate your thoughts and your insights.
Thank you, John.
The Principal Podcast.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Principal Podcast. We hope you learned valuable strategies to grow your firm and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.